What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Dathan, aka the Brown Llama from the Wink and Gentleman Society, and I'd like to welcome you to the first course on Microsoft Excel. Now, this course we're going to do a little bit different than the Word course. This one we're just going to break it up into by tabs, just because there's a lot of information to cover in Excel. And instead of force feeding you a whole bunch of stuff, we're just going to give you some little Excel snacks. So a little bit at a time, see if we can find something that sticks for you and help make you a little bit more efficient while working with Excel. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so just like in Microsoft Word, the same thing applies to Excel. You're going to see a lot of similarities. So hopefully if you've played with any of these programs, a lot of things will kind of flow back to you. If you're new to Excel or even to Microsoft Word, like I said, I'm going to try to make this really simple for you. Try to break it up into little bits and pieces so that way you can move along through Excel without any problems. All right, so when you first start up Excel, you're going to get this menu here. Now, here on the left, if you have any recently opened items, they'll show up here. There'll be a list, and you can even pin certain workbooks there if you're going to use it that frequently. The other thing is to keep in mind about the templates. Just like in Microsoft Word, you have a numerous amount of templates that can help expedite whatever it is you're trying to do in Excel. So don't be afraid to go through those templates. Again, if you find a template that solves some of your problem, but you don't like the formatting, you can always change the formatting. But look at the templates and see if you can find something that'll help you get started on what you're doing. So it's always a good idea to plan out and kind of visualize what it is that you want to do in Excel. Run through the template, see if there's something there that will help you get started. If not, then of course you can always start with the blank workbook and move it along. So let's start with a blank workbook. All right, so first I'm going to cover a couple of terms for you, and then we're going to jump right into this. What I want you to understand is that this entire thing here, this is your spreadsheet, okay? All of this is your spreadsheet. This is where you're going to enter data, your charts, whatever it is that you're trying to do. The overall document is going to be your workbook. So let's say, pay attention here. We have sheet 1. You can hit this plus button and add another sheet. Both of those sheets inside of this one spreadsheet document is going to be your entire workbook. So if the boss says, oh, send me your entire workbook, that means they want the entire file with all the spreadsheets you have included in there. So just make sure you understand that difference between the actual spreadsheet and then the overall thing being your workbook. And one more thing to pay attention to, notice the difference between a cell and a cell range. One individual selection is a cell. What I'm clicking on here, each individual part is called a cell. When you select more than one cell, that would be your range of cells. So if someone gives you the task to, hey, change the data in cell B2. So you change the cell data in B2. But if they say change the cell range of A3 through F3, then you'll click and drag from A to 3 all the way to F. That would be a range of cells. So just make sure you remember that. Individual cells, a range of cells. All right, up top, these are your column headers. They're going to be all alphabetical. Over here to the left, these are your row headers, and they're all going to be numerical. So this works just like those old school timetable sheets, the coordinates. We need to go to cell G5. You can scroll here or highlight here, 5, go to G. So now we know where cell G5 is, and then you can also see this little box here that indicates which cell we're actively working on, which is going to be G5. Again, these are your column headers. These are your row headers. If you need to select an entire column, just highlight your mouse, hover over until you get that little black down pointing arrow, click, and now we've selected all of column A or all of column B and so on. If you need to select an entire row, go all the way to the left until you get that same black arrow. Now we've selected the entire row 1 or the entire row 4. So remember, your column headers, your row headers, and then if you need to select the entire column, highlight over that column and click. If you need the entire row, highlight over that row and click. Now this box up here, this is your cell reference box. Again, that's just going to show you what active cell you're in. And this little triangle here, this is the select all button. So if I click that, that selects everything in my spreadsheet. And just real quick here, I'm going to show you, you can scroll down and keep scrolling and you can see how many different rows. Okay, so it's way more than 255. But you can keep scrolling all the way down and these spreadsheets just go on and on and on. Eventually, they do run out of space, but that's not something you really need to worry about unless you're going to be manipulating a ton of data. Believe it or not, some people do have that job and they do go through multiple spreadsheets That's why it's there. And just like in Microsoft Word, and you'll notice that in a lot of Microsoft Office programs, this area up here, the one that I call the kitchen, because this is where all your pots and pans and ingredients are, you can't perform in the kitchen if you don't know where things are. It's going to take you forever. You need to know where things are. You don't necessarily need to memorize exactly what they do, but at least try to remember where they're located, so when you go through, you can search for what you're trying to do. The technical term up here is going to be called the ribbon. All right, and that's going to apply to all Microsoft Office programs, whether you're using Access, Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. They all have this ribbon up here, and a lot of things are very similar. And then obviously you'll notice, especially around this part here, these are all pertinent to Excel and calculations. And we're going to step through each one of these tabs in later videos, so we'll get to all of that good stuff. But you want to get started here on the Home tab, just making sure you understand the basics of using Excel. All right, so remember, we have our ribbon up here. This is our quick access bar. And just like in Microsoft Word, if you click this arrow here, this is going to show you all the commands that you want to see. So you can go down to more commands, just in case there's a quick shortcut you want to use frequently. Go here. These are popular commands. So this is going to show you what most people use. These are common commands here. You want to get familiar with what's available there, but then you can always go down to all commands, and this will load up and show you all the commands available. Find the commands that you're looking for, and then you hit add, and it's going to go into this menu, which will translate to being on your quick access toolbar. All right, and then the next thing to remember, again, it works just like Microsoft Word. Say if we right click to pull up the contextual menu, which is our long menu here, this is going to give us a few more options. You also have your mini toolbar. So this usually mimics what you see up here as far as the font and the clipboard section. You have your format painter, you have your border options, and then you have your formatting for text, bold, italicize. You have the alignment tools, increase or decrease the font size, and then also, of course, you get to pick your font. So just remember that. And again, that's in the right click menu or the contextual menu, and then you have your quick access toolbar. So remember, just right click, so you get the right click menu or the contextual menu, and then you have your mini toolbar. Now for your ribbon, again, if you need to have more space, if seeing all of this stuff here kind of distracts you, go all the way here to the right, and you have this caret here to collapse the toolbar. You can click that. It doesn't remove it, it just hides it. But all you have to do is click on one of the tabs and it'll come back. But if you're comfortable with it being there, you like to be able to hurry up and click and find whatever it is you're looking for, just go back to that same little section and click that pin, and it'll pin the ribbon back to where it is, so that way you can keep working and then have quick access to the functions and the different tools. All right, so I'm going to show you some things with the navigation. Of course, you can always use your mouse and click and find whatever cell it is that you need to use. But if you're working somewhere and again, you have like a wireless mouse or a really funky mouse that's not doing what it's supposed to do, you can navigate using the arrow keys. So up, down, left, and right. You can also use tab to move to the right. And if you need to step backwards, hold shift and hit tab to move the opposite direction. If you need to move down a cell, anytime you hit enter, it's going to move down a cell. You need to move up, hold shift and hit enter to move the opposite direction. And for some reason, every time I make these videos, somebody hits me up on PlayStation Network. I don't know what's going on with that. And one thing I do want you to keep in mind when you're using enter, so say we have some information here and you hit enter, it's going to move down. If what you're trying to do when you have this information here, if you're trying to do a carriage return, as in drop down to another line, hold the Alt button and press enter, so that way you can type on another line. Otherwise, if you hit just enter by itself, it's just going to drop down to the next level. So just remember that. And you can see how it automatically formatted that cell to accommodate for that amount of information. So again, if I hit enter, I'm going to drop down to the next cell. What I want to do is put in my information, hold the Alt key, press enter to drop to another line. And we're going to go over some other things with that as far as word wrapping and things like that. But I just want you to keep that in mind, because a lot of people will start entering data, hit the enter key, and then it drops down a line. And then they're like, well, what the hell just happened? Just remember, hold Alt key, hit enter. That way you can create a different line inside of that same cell. And then the most obvious way to navigate through your spreadsheet is using the scroll bars, or if you have your mouse wheel, you can scroll up and down. If you hold control while you scroll up, we'll zoom in. Scroll down, we'll zoom out. So remember, all that, those same little tricks and tips and shortcuts I showed you before, all of that stuff still applies here. All right, so let's get started here real quick. So some simple text in there. We have it in this cell. Everything still works the same. Select the cell that you want, Control C to copy. you'll see the little marching ants or this marquee here. We call it the marching ants. Find the cell you want to paste the data to, Control V, paste, and you'll see that's still highlighted because we can still take data from it. So we can always move down to our next cell, and you see how it copied it there is because this was still highlighted. And all I did was click the next cell that I wanted to copy that information to. So I'll show you that again. I'm going to hit Control C. That's where I want to copy my information. I'm going to click here. That's where I want to paste my information. And all you got to do is hit enter and it'll paste that information there. All right. And then I'm going to go back here. If I hit Control X, works the same way. It's still going to remove that information, but again, it's going to keep it highlighted to show that that's the cell we're copying from. Find my new cell, hit Control V, and now it just took this information from that cell and pasted it into that cell. So the copy paste, all of that stuff still works the same. All right, so I'm going to copy this a couple of times here. All right, so let's play with the format painter real quick, just in case you're not familiar with that. So let's change the formatting of one of these cells real quick here. Let's bump up the size. Let's change the color. Let's bump up the size. We'll change the color of the text. So that text is red. We'll grab this one. Let's change the color to blue, and let's pick a different font for that one. This one we can change the color to orange, and we'll just pick a crazy font for that one. All right, so remember, when you're using the format painter, highlight the cell that has the information in it that you want to copy the formatting from. If you click the format painter one time and then click the cell you want, it's going to apply that formatting to that information. And then you notice the format painter is off. So I'm going to hit Control Z or Control Z to undo that. If I double click the format painter, it's going to stay on. So now I'm going to copy this style and I'm going to click it here, and I can click here, and I can click here. And you notice the format painter is still on. So remember, you double click the format painter to keep it on, click it once to only use it once. All right, and then the next section is the font group. Again, that works all the same as it does in Microsoft Word or any other Microsoft program. You can go here, so make sure you select the cell that you want, and you'll see it'll tell me which font I'm using. So if I pick a different cell, it tells you what font, what size, and all that good stuff is there. So go to that cell, find the font you want to use, and change your font. You can also change your font size if you need to increase it or if you need to decrease it. And then you have your font colors. And then the paint bucket, that is your fill. The fill doesn't change the color of the font, it changes the color of the background of the font. So essentially it's going to change the color of the cell. So if I click this yellow bucket, boom, it's going to change the cell to yellow. But say we want the cell to be, I don't know, green. You can go and pick a color, and that's what color the cell is going to be. So it doesn't change the color of the font. Remember, that's going to change pretty much the background of the font. Then you have the increase and decrease again. Then you have the borders here. If you decide that you want to play with borders, which you probably won't really use, at least not in this portion of Excel. All right, and the next thing you want to pay attention to are the alignment tools. You have two different options within the alignment tools. Right now it's set on the bottom align. You have the middle align, and then you have the top align. All right, and then the bottom section of the align tools is pretty much how you want to justify. Align to the left, align to the center, align to the right. So remember, there are two options. So you can go to the right center or to the right bottom. You can go center center, or you can go top center or top left, whatever combination you need to make your spreadsheet readable. Just remember, those are two different options there. You have where you want it to sit and then how you want it to be justified. Next, you have the orientation of the text. This you'll get familiar with, especially if you use charts. So here, say we want to angle it clockwise, vertical text, rotate the text up, and here let's open this up a little bit more. A lot of times you won't need to do this manually because you will have charts that will have that set up for you. However, if in your chart that information doesn't line up the way you want it to go, if it's not flowing properly, then you know how to select that text and then change the orientation of that text. All right, and then next you have your indentation. Nothing special about that. You select your indentation. You want to select and indent more to the left, indent more to the right. Select your indentation if you need to indent. A lot of times you really won't need to do that. We usually use Excel to export information, you know, charts, data, anything like that. And then if we have any text, we usually keep it in a Word document, you know, just like in a normal paragraph. But you can indent your information right here in Excel. The next thing we have here is the wrap text and then merge and center. So let me show you how that works here. All right, so with the wrap text and the merge center, those are ways that you can make sure that your information is visible. So here, let's go here. Now remember, if you just select the cell, you can copy and paste the information in there. And if you look down here at the bottom, it'll just say it's ready to input information. But to actually edit, double click the cell so that you can go into the edit mode. So there's another way that you can copy and paste information. So if I want the actual information in the cell, you can copy that information. But if I want all the attributes of the cell, say the formatting, as far as the size, the colors, then you just click the cell and then use the copy and paste commands. So I'm going to double click this cell so I can go into edit mode, hit Control V to paste my information. And you'll notice here, it looks like the text is in both of these cells, in cells D4 and E4, but it's not. It's only in cell D. And another way to verify that, I'm going to click cell E4, and you see here in the formula bar, nothing's there. But when I click cell D4, it shows me that there's something there. So here's another thing to keep in mind, that when it looks like the text is there, you want to verify that that information is visible. So I'm going to show you how to fix that using the wrap text and the merge and center. So the first option we can do is highlight the cell that has that information in it, hit wrap text, and you see how it moves the text along like that, and it'll fit the text inside of the cell for you. So if you have paragraphs or information, instructions or something like that, you can use the wrap text to make it all fit. So let's hit Control Z. Another thing you can do, since it looks like it's in cell E4, although it's not because nothing's showing up in our formula bar, you can select cell D4 and E4 and go to merge and center. And what that does is merge the two cells together, and now it's just one big cell. So if you can see this here, we have one big cell with all of our information in it. So let's go here. I'm going to Control V to paste that again. Here we have information in G4 and H4. There's no information there. So you want to make sure that your cell has data in it, and not that it looks like there's data overlapping it. So let's say if we have this and we decide we want to make the font really big. In order for this to work, because now you see how I can select individual cells, and that can screw things up because now I have information here and now I hid all of that information that I have of I love video games. So what you can do is select that cell or the cells that are close to it, hit merge and center, and it will put all of that text into that one cell. Now you can't see anything, but what happens if we decrease the font size? Now you can see all of that, and now this cell is not overlapping that cell's information. So remember, merge and center is a way to put all of your cells together and turn it into one large cell. Now again, if you want to change the row height or the column width, just select right in between the two columns that you want to adjust. You'll see that double-sided arrow, and increase your column width or increase your row height, whatever makes you comfortable. Again, there's going to be multiple ways to do all of this stuff. Find the one that you're most comfortable with and use that to help you move along through Excel. Now this bar here, this is your formula bar. You can literally type in your formula or data right in the formula bar, and it's going to put it in whatever cell you have highlighted. And it also shows you that that cell has information in it. So if I go to cell B1, there's no information in it, but I can actually type into the formula bar and put B1. And once we move into functions, you can include your functions here. So I can go equal sum, click the function I want, and then start putting in my arguments. So remember, that's your formula bar. That's a good place to pay attention to verify your information. Now this section here where it says number, it always starts with general. And that's because it's going to assume that you don't want anything in particular as far as your information. So to show you how that works, let's put in 1.3. We'll do 4.5 and 6.8. So right now, with these set on their general, they're just decimals, 1.3, 4.5, 6.8. But if we want this to represent money, you can click the $sign and you'll see how it gives us the dollar value, or percentages, and it'll represent that as percentages. These here will help you increase or decrease a decimal space. So here, let's put it back to general, and we can increase or decrease the decimal, and it will automatically round for you. I would probably say use mini tab if you're going to play with, very long decimals, just so you can get a little more accuracy. Excel's always had this really weird bug. I want to say like after 4 or 5 decimal places, it doesn't give you the accurate decimal, but it does get pretty close. So as you can see here, like I said, you can increase and decrease the amount of decimals you have, and it automatically rounds it. So see here with 1 decimal, 4.5, 6.8. If we take away the decimal, it automatically rounds up to 7 and 5. So just keep that in mind when you're playing with it. You want to make sure you verify your information before you submit it. Now, another thing you can do here, go through this list and find what you're looking for. You have currency, you have accounting, you have the dates, if you want to do long date, short date. So here, let's do, what is today, the 15th? Oh, the day after Valentine's Day, duh. All right, so we're going to do 2/15, And it recognizes that that's the date because of the format, but maybe we want to do a long date. And Excel tells you, hey, today's Friday, February 15th, 2019. So again, make sure you pay attention to this area here, find the right formatting style you want, and then use that. And you can see here again with the accounting, that would be a decent amount of money to have right about now. But with the accounting, you can go in and change the style of the number, change the currency, whatever it is that you need to do. And if you need to get into something more specific, go down here to more number formats. And when that opens up, it gives you a few more options. So if you're going to play with currency, then you can specify the number of decimal places. You can specify whether or not you want your negative numbers to be highlighted in red. Accounting is going to be very similar to currency. It's just going to allow you to get into a few more symbols here if you need to do that kind of stuff, especially if you work with multiple currencies across the world, then it helps you set up that kind of thing. So like, say if we use somebody who's not using a dollar, so you can put like rupees. So it'll help you set all of this stuff up so that it's all proper for you. So just remember, coming through here in the accounting, you have a few different options. You go into currency, you can still use those same options, but you can have something to help specify what negative numbers are going to be. For your date options, you have different date options, so if you're going to send documents that go somewhere where they use a specific date format, you have it all in Excel. You can make sure that when you send these documents out, it's legible for, whoever it is, the party that's going to be looking at these documents, that it's in a format that they're comfortable with observing. Same thing with time. You can pick long time, you have short time if you wanted to show the seconds, AM, PM. And Excel knows what time it is and all that good stuff. So you can always pick that, and it's going to tell you the exact time. It's going to tell you what the exact seconds are, all of that good stuff, the minutes, the hours. So just remember, go into this tab and find the appropriate format that you need. A lot of times you'll use general, or maybe something like currency or accounting, short date and long date, the time if you need. But there's also functions to actually insert these so that Excel will automatically populate that for you. And we'll get into that when we start playing in the formulas tab. Now, before we move into the styles, I'm going to show you a couple things here. When you have this four-way crosshair, you can move that entire cell. So say we want to move this 4.5 to here, click and drag, and you move that entire cell. All right. And remember, if you double click, then you go into edit mode, which means you can change the values of that cell. So let's say we want to move this one over also. You can bring that over here. And this is not an error. This is usually what errors look like, but that particular one is not an error. When you see a bunch of hashtags or pound signs, that means that there's not enough space to accommodate the numerical values there. So just go and increase the column width so that it can show all the information, and there you have that. And with conditional formatting, that's a good way for you to have your spreadsheet quickly express if there's any type of information you want to draw quick attention to. And what I mean by that, say if you're looking at sales data or the number of days you may have off for the year, something like that, you can set up conditional formatting for Excel to automatically highlight cells that meet certain criteria. So if cells are bad, you want it to immediately identify those cells that are showing that, hey, we didn't make enough revenue this period, or to also identify, hey, we made more than expected this period. So it's a good way to use for budgeting. And again, like I said, to quickly identify problems. So to show you a quick example of that, I have 1 through 9 here, and then 9 through 1 in column B. So I'm going to select this range of cells. I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and I'm going to go to highlight cell rules. So let's start with our first one. We're going to go with greater than. So we'll do something super simple. So with this, we're going to say we want to highlight cells that are greater than 5, since that was the default that it put in there. And we want anything greater than 5 to turn yellow. Hit OK, and you saw it was already giving us a preview. So what you can see here is that any number or any cell that has a value greater than 5, it highlights in yellow. So let's select that same range again. We're going to go back to conditional formatting. We're going to go back to cell rules, select less than. Anything less than 5, we're going to set it to red. You hit OK. So all the numbers less than 5 are now highlighted in red. 5 has not been included because we didn't use the equal to. So it uses those same operators. The big alligator is the small number, like it's the same thing. All right, so let's select this range of cells again. We're going to go back to conditional formatting. We're going to go back to highlight cell rules, and we're going to say equal to. So anything equal to 5, we want that to turn green. So let's go with a green fill. So if that makes sense to you, we've set rules. Anything less than 5, turn it to red. Anything greater than 5, turn it to yellow. Anything equal to 5, make it green. And if you're not entirely sure about how that's working, add more information. And as you can see there, the table automatically updates that information, maintaining those same rules. Now, when you go back into conditional formatting, you can also set that to do top 10 items. So if you're looking at products, hey, sort this information based on the top 10 items. Highlight the top 10%, highlight the bottom 10. So those are ways for you to quickly identify information that you know you need to pay attention to. If we need to see what our top 10 items are, it'll highlight those for us. If we need to see what our bottom 10 are or what the averages are. So those are your conditional formatting rules. If you have any troubles or you want to get a little bit more in depth, one, you can go down here and clear rules and start over, or go to manage rules, go to this worksheet so it shows everything associated with this worksheet. The other option was the current selection, which is this cell, and we don't have any information there yet. So you can go to this worksheet. You can stop if true. So hey, once this information is true, stop applying the formatting. Or you can go in here, add new rules, or edit the rules. So let's say we want to edit the rules. Say we don't want them to turn red. The boss doesn't like red. It makes her all weird. So let's edit the rule. Rather than it turning red, let's change the color. Go to format, and we'll have those light up. Maybe she likes this blue color. We'll hit OK, and now you can see that all of those values have changed to that blue. So again, very simple, very useful. Find a way that it works for you. Again, be creative about it. Just make that information stand out when you're using conditional formatting. So again, conditional formatting is to format those cells based on specific conditions that you tell the cells to abide by. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is format as table. With that, all you do, select the information that you have here, go to format as table, and then select the type of table you want. And what that's going to do is convert that information into whatever table you select. So let's go with old school traditional blue and white here. This is asking, where is the data for your table? It's this data. You can see the marching ants or the scrolling marquee is already highlighted. You can click my table has headers to let it know that there's going to be rows at the top to identify what that information is, and hit OK. But what you see here is that it turned 1 and 9 into headers, and those aren't headers. Even though we can sort through our table, and I'll show you the sorting options here in a second, those aren't sufficient as far as headers. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. And what I'm going to do is, since I have this selected, get to the border, get that 4-way crosshair, just drag it down a little bit. And then up here, I'm going to say numbers, and then I'm going to hit tab and move over, and I'm going to say numbers 2 and hit enter. So now I'm going to select this information again. Now that we put those new values in there, go to format as table. Let's pick our table style. And this time we do have headers. The headers are going to be these two. So say this could be products, this could be price. Hit OK. Now we have our appropriate headers, and we can go down here and sort through, hey, what do you want to see? Let's hit select all because we want to see all the data there. But maybe we don't want to see all the data. Maybe we don't want it to show all of that. We can hit select all to deselect everything and tell it we only want to see 8s and 7s. And now we just sorted our table out to only show 8s and 7s. Now on this one, the reason why it's showing 3 and 2 is because 3 and 2 are tied into the 8 and 7. So we would need to put this inside of his own separate chart. But this is just to show you how the information can be sorted through. And since that information is linked, you can sort with this one also. So with this one, remember we only wanted to show us 7 and 8. And then since these values are associated with these values, it's telling us, hey, 3 is associated with 7, so I'm going to show that. And 2 is associated with 8, so I'm going to show that. So again, if this was the product and this was the price, that's pretty much what it's showing. And then we can go in here and then sort by the price. Maybe we don't want to see 2s. We only want to see 3s. So it's going to show us over here that we have the value of 7 is associated with the value of 3. And I'll show you a better example of that with some actual data. So let's go back to our filter. Let's hit select all here. And then you can hit select all here. And that brings back all of our information. So let's select this range. You can go to cell styles and pick specific styles that you want. And if you'll notice, the chart itself isn't changing in its entirety. And that's because we still have those cell rules, those highlight, the conditional formatting rules. So all of that information will stick unless you actually need to remove it. It will stick in there so that way you can go through and change things without removing the work that you've previously put into the chart. And do keep in mind the cell styles, those are just aesthetic things, nothing big there. Just again, it's something to help you with the readability or if you need to highlight certain information. The insert here, so let's click off of that. If you go to insert, what that's going to do is insert rows right now because that's what it is by default, to insert a row. Click the arrow here. You can insert cells, insert rows, which is what it's doing, or you can insert columns, or if you hit insert sheet columns, same thing. So you can insert different rows, insert more columns, and the number of values are going to change as far as the column header and the row header. And you'll notice that that did not change our formatting. So again, that formatting will stay in there. Now here in the Format tab, this is going to give you a few more options. You can auto fit the row height. So based on the information in there, the row height will change itself based on how much information is inside that cell. You can auto fit the column width to accommodate for the information you have there. You can go back to the defaults. So here, let's hit default width. The hide and unhide, you can hide certain rows or certain columns. So let's say we have information in this column. So I'm going to highlight the E to select that entire column. Maybe we don't want the customer or whoever's viewing a document to see what's in this column, although there will be values there. We just don't want them to see that. Or maybe we just want it out of the way so we can work. We don't want to pay attention to it. We just want to have it there as a placeholder. You can go down here to hide and unhide. Select either hide the row or the column. I want to hide that column. So now that column's hidden. And you can see that where it jumps from D to F. And then you have this little bar here to indicate that there's something there. And open that back up. If you double click in between the columns, same thing with the rows. If you double click in between the rows, it'll automatically readjust it for you. So real quick, if I spread this column out and it's huge, maybe I don't want it to be huge, just click in between it and double click and it'll readjust it for you. Same thing with the rows. So say that's too much information in the row space, the row height, click in between 3 and 4 and double click it and it will take it right back to its normal size for you. The next thing you have under the format option is to rename the sheet. So you can rename the sheet and that's going to be down here. So let's call this one sheet 1. Another thing you could do, remember there's multiple ways to do the same thing. So you can right click it and go to rename. If we want to get rid of this sheet, you can just hit delete and delete the sheet, but you do need to have at least one sheet. So let's hit that so we can add a sheet. We'll move that over. Right click this sheet where we put all this information, hit delete and get rid of that sheet. Again, you can right click it and rename it, or you can go up here to the format option and hit rename sheet. If you want to move or copy the sheet, same thing. Click move or copy and it's going to ask you which one do you want to move or copy. Select the sheet that you want to move or copy, hit OK and move the sheet. But we don't have any other workbooks, so we don't need to do that. But just understand what those options are for you. So the next thing on the format is your tab color. So if you're one of those people who are very organized, you're a visual organizer, you can change your tab colors so that way you can color code certain information. So let's add another sheet here. Let's go back to format. Let's change this tab color to that blue. So that way your sheets are in different colors for you. Maybe one sheet is for your debits, one sheet is for your credits. You'll know exactly which sheet to go to based on the color code that you assign to it. The next thing is the protect sheet, which the protect sheet is really great to use, especially if you don't want people to modify things. You can insert a password so that certain things can't be modified. And then you can select what options the next users are allowed to use and what options are going to require a password. So if we don't want them to format the cells, we don't want them to format rows or the columns, maybe we want them to be able to insert rows so that they can put their own information in but not change the stuff that we've added, you can password protect those cells or rows or columns. All right, and then under format options, you also have the lock cell, which that's going to work with your protect sheet. So you can lock individual cells to make sure that people can't change certain information. So say you have an invoice and you put in, something like the tax rate or something, and you don't want them to modify the tax rate, you can lock that cell so that tax rate information is not able to be modified. If you click format cells, that's going to bring up a little dialog box. And it's all of the same options that you have here where you can point and click, but this just gives you a little bit more of an advanced view, so you can change a lot of different things about the formatting right from here to affect that specific cell. Again, all of this same stuff here is going to be up here with the addition of things like the strike through and the superscript and subscript. But you can also change the format. Remember this here, the general, number, currency, that's this section. The alignment, that's this section. And then you also have the wrap text, shrink to fit, merge cells. All of that is all in this section here. Your font section is here. Again, you just have a few additional options here that are not on the ribbon. You can go here, so if you want to select borders, if you want to put borders, you can click something like outline, and this shows you a preview of what it's going to do to the cell. It's going to completely outline the cell with that style. And just hit outline again, so that way it'll refresh, because you'll notice if I click this one, the little dash or broken up one, it's not showing it right away, but you hit outline again and it'll show that the new option of the style that we selected. And then if you want to remove individual parts of the border, you can select this and remove just that part of the border, or just this part of the border, or the top part, or the lower part of the border. Maybe we want the top part, maybe we want the right border. So you can select which part of the border shows up. So what if we go to the double line? I'm going to hit outline so we can see everything. And maybe we just don't want the right border. And that's giving you a preview of what your border is going to look like. So you can be creative with it. Again, you want to make sure that you want to put your sheet in a way that information has a visual attraction where people can immediately look at it. So again, you can apply different style borders to different cells, different colors, and so on. The fill, that's the little paint bucket. That is that little section here. What do you want to do to the cell? What do you want to be the actual color of the cell? So again, multiple ways to do the same thing. You have the option here, and then you also have it here. Your protection is the same thing that we just showed here. If you want to have cells locked, or if you want to have them hidden, you can use that same option. And remember, that is all under format. If you want to remove the formatting, you just go here to clear. And then it's going to ask you, what do you want to clear all, which is going to be everything, the text or information, the values inside of the cell, including the formatting. So we can hit clear all. That removes everything, right? So let's hit Control Z to undo that. And then let's just put some values in there. We'll go to clear, and you can clear just the contents. You can clear comments if you have comments there. You can clear hyperlinks if there are hyperlinks there. But say we want to keep the values but just get rid of the formatting. Click clear formats, and it clears only the formatting and not the values. Now with comments, you right click, go down to insert comment, and type what you're going to say. So you'll notice that you can still have your values here, and you can change them and all of that good stuff, and the comment doesn't get in the way. They'll know that there's a comment because you'll have that little red triangle in the upper right hand corner to let you know that there's a comment there. All they have to do is hover over the cell, the comment shows up. And another cool thing with comments, you can have the comments to show and hide. So remember, if they hover over it, it'll show it, which is the way you probably want to stick to. But if you want the comments to always show, just right click, go to show and hide comment. So no matter what they do, where they click, whether they highlight or whatever, is always going to show that comment. Again, that can get in the way of some of your data. You don't want that. So I would suggest keeping the comments on hidden. And then if they want to read the comment, they can just hover over the cell and see what the comments are. And to get rid of that comment, right click, delete comment, and it's all gone. Or go over here to clear and go clear comments, and it'll remove the comments as well. All right, the next thing that we have here is the Autosum. When you want to Autosum, all you need to do is find your empty cell, click Autosum, and it automatically selects the data that we have here. You can always specify, maybe we want our data's over here, we wanted to Autosum that. Let it select it. All your information needs to be inside these parentheses, unless you have multiple arguments, and we'll explain the arguments when we get into formulas, but you want to make sure it's all in the parentheses. You can hit enter. So now we have our Autosum feature. So here, let's highlight that so we know what's going on there. And that's giving you the sum of all of these numbers. Very simple, very straightforward. Another thing you could do, say we don't want the sum, maybe we want the average. Go here, click average, select where you want that information to be averaged, hit enter. So now it gives us the average number of this range of numbers. So maybe we don't want the average, maybe we want the minimum and the maximum. Again, highlight the cell where you want the results to be displayed, which is going to be here in cell A10. All right, and keep in mind, if you just click the Autosum button, it's going to automatically sum the data that it found there. Unless you specify a different place for your data, you hit enter and it's going to automatically sum it for you. All right, so say we wanted to do like the minimum or the maximum. Now keep in mind, if you just hit Autosum, it's going to insert the Autosum function, okay? So make sure you go to this arrow, the same way we did with average, and select the function that you want to use. So let's try out max. It's going to show this is where it's picking up the information to produce a result for the maximum. You hit enter and it tells us the maximum number in that range of cells. All right, so let's go back here, click our little arrow and hit minimum. Hit enter and it tells us our minimum number. So remember, that's how most functions are going to work. So when we get into functions, I want you to make sure that you understand that we need to have where we want the results to show, and then we need to specify where it's getting that information from. So again, to show you real quick, this is the cell that we want the results to show. This is the range of cells where that information is going to come from in order to give us our result here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit Autosum. Yes, this is correct, Excel. That's where I want to get my data from. I'm going to just hit enter and it's going to give us our sum function. A lot of the functions are going to work that way. You're going to have one cell or a range of cells or what have you that are going to give you your results, but you do have to specify where it's getting its data from in order to produce that result. It's basic math. Everything follows the operational order. So it's not as hard as most people think. All you need to do is to understand how it works. After that, you play around with Excel, play with a few functions, and you'll fly through this program without a problem. All right, and then to wrap up this quick Excel course, we're going to run through a bunch of the different things that we covered here in the overview and show you how everything goes. So for this example, let's say we own a video game shop, right? So we have our game, the game titles. We haven't specified any product numbers yet, and we haven't specified our product codes, and we have our pricing. So since we can't really see everything, we can see here that when we click this cell, this is product number, but we need to expand that. So let's put our cursor between B and C and double click, and you'll see that it'll open up the product number. This one, product code, double click, and it'll automatically set the size for us. So now we can see that, but our game section is kind of wide. So let's double click there, and voila, it automatically adjusts the column width so that we can see all of our information. So what I'm going to show you here is how to use the autofill, but first let's play with some of our formatting. So I'm going to highlight this entire range of data, all right, because we want to turn this into a table that we can play with. So I'm going to go here to format as table. Let's select the table. Let's get something kind of cool looking. We'll go with that one. So this, again, where's the data of your table? We already have it highlighted. My table has headers. Yes, these are our headers because we can then that way we can sort it by the game. We can sort it by the product number, the product code, or the price. So yes, we have headers. We're going to hit OK. Now when I click this, I can go through and sort through. So maybe I just want the Call of Duty games to show up. And then whatever information that is associated with our Call of Duty games is also going to show up. So let's go back to filter. If I deselect select all, it's not going to select anything. Click select all, that shows everything. So just remember how to do that. And let's say this isn't super legible. It's just, it looks like one big line here. So we can go here and let's play with some more of the formatting. Let's see. Here I only put a border on the outside, but we need to be able to see inside of those individual cells. So let's select this range here. We don't really need to bother with our header section. Let's go to format, format cells, which you can also do by selecting that range how we have here, right click and go down to format cells. All right, so you see how we have this border and that's only showing the outline, the outside. You can also click inside so that way we have each cell having a border. So that's what we want, so that way we can see where the information is. Let's hit OK, and now each cell has its own border and we can see things a little bit better. And then you know what? This section here, this is price. So we want that. We want to make sure that that is money. So let's click up top so that we select that whole column. So that way, anytime if we add any more information, Excel is going to remember, hey, anything associated with this column is going to be about money. So let's click the money sign and voila. And you know what? Let's open it up a little bit more just so we have some more space there. And then you know what? Maybe the people don't really care about the change. Let's go ahead and take off our decimal. So that way we got whole numbers there. So again, we're just playing with a bunch of different formatting things. Let's select this range. Let's go to conditional formatting. Let's go to highlight cell rules. Let's go greater than, and anything greater than, I don't know, let's say $30. We want to highlight it with green. Hit OK. So now we see all of the games that we have in stock that are more than $30. They light up in green because we're making money off those for those that are over $30. Everything under $30, we're just breaking even, or equal to or below $30, we're breaking even. So again, that's just playing with the conditional formatting. And let's say here, the green on green kind of makes it a little hard to read. It's a little weird. We can go back to our conditional formatting, go to manage rules. Remember, we have this rule here. You can double click it or go to edit. I'm gonna hit format and let's go to our font and change the color of our font to black. So we'll put that on automatic. Fill is on that light green. We can keep that. We'll hit OK, hit OK, hit OK one more time. And now our text is black and the background is still green. All right, so with the autofill, what we can do there, let's say again, we have these products and we want to get this started. We want to keep track of our inventory. So for the first product, let's call this product number 101, right? And then we'll go with product number 102. So let's say with that, if we want to use the autofill, select 101 and 102, and you'll have this little bar, the little box at the bottom corner. And you could drag that down, and it's going to automatically fill in that information for us. But in order for that to work, you have to start a pattern. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo all of that. So again, this is going to be product 101, and I hit enter. If I select the fill handle now, it's just going to put 101 in each box because there's no pattern. It doesn't see anything. So let's hit Control Z again. It's Control Z. So we're going to say this is 101, enter 102. Now there's a pattern there for Excel to recognize. Now we click that fill handle, drag it, and it'll automatically populate in order for us. So now we know what that product number is. That's a quick way to insert information without having to go to each cell and enter the values. Now with the product code, it works the same way. What I want to do here, I'm going to put in the first 3 letters of the game title. So for God of War, we're going to do GOD. I'm going to put a hyphen 101. So the first 3 letters of the game title hyphen the product code. That's how we're going to, or the product number. So that way we can identify our product codes. Another way to keep track. So far, if I go here and I click this fill handle, what is it going to give me? GOD all the way through 10. That's not going to be good unless we have 10 copies of God of War. So let's take that back. If we want to build a product code, all we need to do is give Excel a pattern to recognize. And the way we'll do that, we'll start with the first 3 letters of the game, hyphenate it with the product number, and then Excel will automatically populate the rest of the information for us because it's going to recognize a pattern that we're putting in part of the game name and hyphenating it with the product number. So here we'll start with this. Let's go GOD-101. So God of War 101, that's our product code. That's how we keep track of our game in the store. So I'm going to type in CAL. Didn't even have to type in it. I just put in C, and it's asking right now. We haven't committed to anything yet. That's why the cells, they don't have their border. They're still in edit mode. So you see what it did? It gave us CAL-102 to let us know that, hey, this game goes with this product number. And then we have CALL-103 to let us know that that's going to be associated with Black Ops, and so on and so forth. So we can hit enter, and voila. We have all of our product codes. It auto-filled everything for us. We're good to go. Now, before I show you the sorting options real quick, I'm going to just show you that one more time using something simple. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, if I want to go all the way down, just select that pattern that you just started. See the little green dot here? That's your fill handle. Click and drag, and you'll see it give you a preview on the right-hand side of it, and it'll bring you into that pattern. Now, if you don't put a pattern, say I put 1 and I hit enter, I haven't given Excel a pattern. So if I click and drag the fill handle, it's just going to give me a bunch of 1s. As long as you give it a pattern, it will automatically go ahead and set up the rest of the autofill for you. And it works with a bunch of different things, especially like anything that's common. So let's go, let's do something like this. Go Monday, Tuesday, highlight that information because that is a pattern starting. Click and drag the fill handle to as far as you need to. And you see it knows, hey, okay, you're starting a date pattern. So it puts in a date for us. So again, that's using the autofill feature. So I'll show you one last time here with the dates. Let's go, actually here, let's start with Tuesday. Hit enter to drop to the cell down below. Wednesday. And again, that's a pattern. Select that pattern, click and drag, and it will go ahead and extrapolate the rest of the information for you. Simple enough, right? Now with the fill option, you can change that. It doesn't always have to go vertical like in the column. If you notice the arrow here, this is filling down in that series. If you click this arrow to the right, you can have it fill to the right, fill up, or fill to the left. It's all about how you want to do it. So you're not stuck with just that particular pattern if for some reason you need to fill it out in a different way. Now here with this information, again, since we put headers in there, we can sort straight from this table. Since we made a table with headers, we can sort straight from our headers. So let's say, what do we have? 2 Call of Duty games. Let's keep it on select all. We can sort it in descending order. Then we can go over here and sort by price from largest to smallest. We can sort it by the product code, and then we can sort it by the product number. So there's different ways to sort. You can make different levels of sorting. And that's pretty much how you build a table and sort your information. Remember, there's your autofill. In order for your autofill to work, all you have to do is start a pattern. And what I want you to pay attention to is here in the table, I've just went and put it to sort in alphabetical order, A to Z. And since the values to the right of it are associated with it, it automatically changed the product code or sorted the product code and the price and all that good stuff. But 2 different things happen here with the autofill. This one, remember we started with 101 and then brought it all the way down to 108, 109, 110. That was using the autofill. When we started putting the product code, the product number, and the game title, that one was called a flash fill, where it just automatically knew exactly what we were about to do with it. I mean, you can always go in there and edit it, but a lot of times it's pretty good at guessing it exactly what you're trying to do. So this one, we use autofill to generate our quick pattern. This one used the flash, the auto flash, to instantly and automatically put in the information that we were looking for. So just make sure you remember the difference between those two. And remember, like what we did over here. So say if I select this same pattern, go back to this, I can keep going with the autofill. So that's going to be your autofill. So those are the 2 different options that you have there. And then of course the last thing here is the find and replace, but that's the same as everything else. You can either go to find and replace or hit Control F. And let's say whatever we need to find on this spreadsheet, let's put in call of, and we won't say whatever else. So find. And what you can see there where it's highlighting each value that has call in it. And then you can see up here in the formula bar of the different values that it's finding or the different cells that have that call of in the cell. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for the Home tab. In the next video, we're going to go over the Insert tab just to show you how to insert charts and graphs and all of that good stuff. Try to keep it simple, try to keep it quick for you. If you have any questions about any of this information, leave us a comment or send us an email at winkingentleman@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Peace.